Well, howdy, friends and neighbors. Here's another edition of Bloviations, Tall Tales, and Stories from the Road. Got another one here about my dear friend Santiago Jimenez. Um, so we were coming back from the Edmonton Folk Festival, which is a whole series of stories right there in itself. Um, but it was Bad Livers, the three members of Bad Livers, and Santiago Jimenez, and we were in my van with Texas plates. And we were coming back from the festival, headed back to Texas, and we were coming across the North Dakota border. And little did I know, the having a brown person in a van from Texas was going to be really difficult getting into the United States. Evidently, that's a what do you call it? A red flag. And especially if the guys in the band, look a little freaky. I had a leather jacket, and Barnes had his shoulder-length hair, and Ralph White, man, whew, Ralph White. That's a guy who, when he gets around authority figures, just turns into uh, uh, you know, turns into a guy that authority figures definitely want to check out. And also with Ralph, he always had weed on him, even when he said he didn't. So you would have to pull over the van and then literally take all of his gear and shake it down, and then we invariably found something, and he smelt of it too. So we always knew it was going to be difficult getting across the border. So finally, we do the shakedown, we Aussie him, everything, and so there's Santiago in the front seat. We got all the passports. So come across the border, and boy, they look us over and they think they've got a live one. And it's like, pull it over here, you know what I mean? And when they pull us over, man, I see that they have a Air Force reserve unit there, and they are going to tear our truck to bits. So they ask who's the owner of the car. That's me. And they take the other three guys, Santiago and Danny and Ralph, and they put them in separate rooms. And what I found out later was they interrogated them and asked them the same questions, hoping to get different answers. And then they interrogated me while they took everything out of the van. And it was like a comedy routine, because I actually had a manifest that I'd done this before. So I had a manifest that I had the U.S. Customs guy when I went up, when I came up the other way, not through North Dakota, but I'd gone up the other way. I'd had the U.S. Customs guy stamp it, and then it had a list of all the things that we had. And it was like 4 accordions, tuba, 2 banjos, string bass. You know what I mean? Like, but think about it. Banjos, accordion, tuba. Like, is this a joke? So here are these freaky dudes with a Hispanic guy. Right? So what are we doing? We've got to be bringing drugs. We've got to be bringing an illegal. They think they've got a hot one, like for sure. So they're going to take our van, my van, and they're going to put it up on they're going to put it up on there, and they're going to tear it apart. But before that, they got to take everything out. So these guys, man, they're in combat uniform. They are pulling out all of our stuff, and I'm just like standing there going, "Cool, man, pull it out. I don't care." And then they open up one of the cases, and then they turn to the border patrol agent. And they go, "It's an accordion." I go, "Yeah, it's a Hohner Corona C." And then they open up another one. He goes, "It's an accordion." And then they open up my case and they go, "It's a tuba." And then they want to crack everything open. So I open up the tuba, I open up the bass, I open everything up. We lay all of the instruments out on this floor, and they're just staring at it. They can't imagine that we're actually a band. They can't put it together that these freaky looking rock and roll dudes are hanging out with this Mexican American guy who is holding himself with such style. He was wearing a beautiful houndstooth suit coat, and he looked so stylish, and he carried himself with such great deportment. He was being so nice, even though they were like being so mean to him. He was being so nice, and I was just smiling. And what they really were upset was that all of the documentation said Santiago Jimenez Jr., and his passport said Jimmy Mena Jimenez. Long story, Hispanic people have names more than a few. His name was Santiago Jimmy Mena de la Rosa Jimenez. He had a long name, but legally his name was Jimmy Mena. True story. So we had to explain that to them, and they didn't want to hear that. So they thought for sure we were pulling some kind of scam still. Boy, they were so mad. They were so mad. And then they came out, and then I saw the other guy come out and goes, he's just shaking their head because the stories of all three of the guys were exactly the same. Oh, they were so upset. They were so upset. And I'm doing everything to keep from laughing. I'm literally like, yeah, it's a tuba. Yeah, that's an accordion. That's a banjo. You know what I mean? I'm trying so hard. I've just got this huge smile on my face because we knew we had a gig at a it was a Borders bookstore in Fargo, and we'd allowed 4 hours to get across the border, and it was a damn good thing what we did because it was 4.5 hours that we spent. They took out my door panels. They took off the wheels. They took that van apart. They were looking for something, and I can't imagine how many illegals and carloads of drugs went past while this was going on. And we just and this is what happened was at the time our record label, Quarter Stick Records, for whatever reason, because of the valuation, they had all of their CDs made in Canada. So while we were in Canada, we bought a bunch of CDs and had them shipped to the gig in Edmonton. And we sold out almost all of them, except for about, 25. I had like 25 CDs. And the thing was, they said, made in Canada on them. They had stickers on them. And the deal is that I didn't declare them. I forgot to declare them when we came across 25 CDs with a little sticker on them that said made in Canada. And I forgot to. So after all of this, rigmarole, they busted me for not declaring. And they fined me $100. They fined me $100. And I pulled out, because I carried the money. I pulled out the $20 bills. And the guys they put the van back together again. They did a good job. I'll give them that. They put it, and then we had to load everything back in the van, right? And and I go, "Are we free to go?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Let me tell you something. My dad told me that any time you cross a border, you'd better have $100." He did, actually. He said, "You better have some money to make sure you grease the wheels." And he just looked back at me just like, it was like one of these glorious moments. And the thing is that through the whole thing, Santiago was just like this. But, in the way that, like, a guy who's probably suffered this kind of indignity had probably done, like, this is a guy who, this probably happens by border agents down in Texas all the time. You know what I mean? Like, this is nothing new to him. And he just was just as sweet as could be, just as nice as could be, was just as polite and sweet. And we get back in the car, and he goes, "Chingada, pinche, la migra pinches." We drove on to the next gig. It was quite the time, man. So that's our story about crossing the border up there in North Dakota with Santiago Jimenez. Another Bloviation, tall tale, and story from the road. Next time, I think I'll talk about our trip up there in Edmonton, which was amazing at the Edmonton. This is 1993, by the way, at the Edmonton Folk Festival, and with Santiago Jimenez. So, thanks for watching.